guys, and welcome to our official live launch of Hecate. This is Lisa and Anton coming at you from the Awareness Shop, although we're actually in our front room with our piano that desperately needs tuning behind us here. And we've got some incredible people to meet this evening. So who would you like to go to first, Lisa?
Well, I think ladies first.
Ladies first. So tell us all about this amazing lady that we have here then.
Well, we got in a book called Hecate, Goddess of Witches, and we thought, well, this is an amazing looking book. And we got 12 copies and it sold out in no time. So I said, she must know something about Hecate. So believe it or not, people, Courtney Weber is joining us.
Without further ado, if only we knew how to pull her onto this broadcast, and as if by magic, I think there you go. We have Courtney. Welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, it's a pleasure. I'm just delighted to have. I'm so excited to hear that the book sold out that fast. That's good news.
Yes, we just got another case of them in because of tonight.
Oh, that's great. That is great. Well, I know my publisher is quite delighted, as is my husband.
Oh. Yes, royalty checks are nice things.
Oh no, he's never complained, not at all. It's worth it because I'm a. Can I curse on your show?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. I'm a real pain in the ass to live with when I'm writing a book. There's days in my office coming out crying or raucous laughter at 7 a.m. It's just that's the Scorpio moon working on a project like that, and it's a lot to live with someone who behaves that way when they're writing. So delighted that I can tell him it's all worth it.
It is all worth it. And a shout out hello to Ash and Susan and Kathleen and Stephanie. There's some people joining in on Facebook.
Momentarily, I'm going to dive over to YouTube and have a look, or I can look on comments and stuff like that.
But first, who else do we have waiting backstage?
So the whole idea of what we're doing this evening, I'm just going to pop Courtney off for a second. Don't go away, Courtney. We'll be right back with you, all right? So if only, you know what tonight's about. We said that it's going to be the official reveal, and you might just see she's like poking in here a little bit. This is the latest in a range of statuary, which I don't know if you guys know, or maybe you should by now, created by the ridiculously talented Joe Laudati, who is some kind of off the chart. I'm sure he won't mind me saying off the chart, stupidly talented. Nobody should be this talented on earth. He just,
yes, they should.
Well,
he's allowed to be.
He just can turn out stuff like you just can't get your head around it. It's like the attention to detail. I mean, I got my Nikon camera on to take some really, really, really cool pictures, and you just wouldn't believe the detail. The guy must have a magnifying glass or stuff like that. So I suppose without further ado, we should really welcome the one, the only, the fabled Joe Laudati. Good evening, Joe, and thank you so much for joining us. Welcome.
Hey guys, I'm glad to be here.
Isn't it fun that you can be home and wearing pajamas and be on TV with us?
Well, it's about time. Not doing it for a while, so planets finally aligned.
The planets have aligned. So yeah, this was quite a different kind of undertaking, because previously we had just done the Welsh Celtic pantheon. So we all knew or had a relationship, and this time it was like delving into a new place.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's dive everybody in together. We'll bring Courtney on, and then I'll take a look at.
Hi, Bridget, and hi, Mike. And yes, believe it or not, this is a creation by Joe. And you just wouldn't say what?
That is spectacular! Wow.
Oh, the detail is incredible.
I'm going to take a look at some comments while you're doing that, because people are saying some things. Oh my goodness gracious me.
So, Joe, how long did this one take you?
Well, this was an interesting assignment compared to ones that we've done before. Because as you say, she's a crossover from a number of different pantheons. So as a result, she's a very popular goddess, and there's a lot of different interpretations of her, starting, I guess, with the Greek and going all the way back to even possibly the Egyptian. I haven't read your book yet, Courtney, but I'm sure I would be able to fill in a lot of the blanks on her history from that. But because she's so popular, there's so much material to draw from to determine what she should look like, the various elements that are part of her outfit and what she holds and all of this. And I tried to incorporate as much of that as possible. But as such, it took a while to figure it all out. In fact, I started her in April, and I had a couple of false starts. I just wasn't getting the essence of the character down. So this one took, I guess, probably about 4 or 5 months of on and off labor trying to figure it out. I went through a couple of different poses. I was just uncertain of that. I wanted to get a certain amount of movement into her body and perhaps even a touch of sensuality. Knowing that she's the triple goddess, the Maiden, Mother, and the Crone, I wasn't sure which to focus on the most. So I kind of just came up with one solid, very powerful looking goddess that sort of embodied all of those elements. And
yes, I think that's true.
Yeah.
When you look at her face, she really could kind of morph into any aspect, depending, I suppose, on the one you want to connect to.
Mm-hmm.
So, Courtney, can we ask you a couple of questions? Like, why does she carry keys?
Gosh, so the symbols are so old and diverse and complicated. And also I'm the queen of the rabbit hole, so we could be on this one for a while. But there's a few things. It's thought that she, as the key keeper, may be able to open the world, be able to open the realms between the worlds. So she may be able to open the doors so that the wandering dead could go into another life. She was also the ones that could keep them out. The ancient Greeks in particular were very frightened of ghosts. And so they were even, the idea of a beloved dead person passing away, not necessarily going to watch over you, but your kindly grandfather might haunt you, because once he's a ghost, who knows what he's going to be like. And so she was in charge of keeping the spirits out of the world, but also may have been credited with letting spirits come into the world, like, to cause mischief, to cause mayhem. And some later writings about her, it's thought that she might be able to that the keys might have had something to do with opening up to greater mysteries of the universe, a greater understanding, a greater it's hard to. Some of these words are being a little bit misused and misapplied. So, but some kind of version of enlightenment. So there's a sense in which she might be able to allow for that. It's also possible that the keys represent an even older role, which is coming more from like a Bronze Age, in which that the temples were also sources of food. This is where communal food storage would take place in different communities, was in temples. And so the priestess or the priest, or basically the warden, whoever was in charge of the temple, was also the one who had access to the food stores. And so they were kept behind, kept in these locked doors. And so having the key meant that people need to stay on your good side, because you have access to all the food to feed all the people. And there's a lot of other things that are probably related to the key that are no longer available to us. They're lost to history. So some of the beliefs and the cultic practices around Hecate were very, very tightly kept by the priestesses and other people that were pledged to her. But so there was one rite that was called the Procession of the Key, of which we know very, very little about. We think it may have had something to do with blessing the fields for abundance and for an abundant harvest. But the head of the procession was usually a young woman who would carry a key. And it was often said that she would have either been a priestess of Hecate or a daughter of a priestess of Hecate. So some of the things we know and some of the things we don't, a lot of things, like with a lot of these old faiths, we're just kind of guessing, right?
Fill in the blanks, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I say now that I think that, to me personally, and what, a lot of the buzzwords in the witchcraft community, the unique personal gnosis, which is like which basically means my interpretation, not founded on any fact whatsoever. My UPG is that the modern incarnation of Hecate, the key is about unlocking secrets in yourself, unlocking your greater power, and potentially even. I also say that one of the things Hecate does is when she comes into your life, she shakes out all the ghosts and chases them away. And so she's a matter of like unlocking the things we've put away and that we don't want to see. So a lot of different things. We could be here all day talking about the keys.
And that's just the keys.
That's just the keys.
The other thing that when I just certainly by reading through your book and some of the little things that I've taken the time to find out, the torch, she's almost never pictured without a torch, as I understand it. And quite often the coiled serpent. Are those two connected, Courtney?
So historically speaking, I don't recall how often the serpent and the torch were depicted, like in ancient art. The torches were very, very important because she was considered, both the symbols are about like what they would call the chthonic deities that had realms beneath the earth in the darker part of the world, not necessarily like dark as in evil, but that the snakes and serpents and things burrowed under the ground. So they were often connected with scary stuff, ghosts and the dead and things, because that's where the dead went. And that's where the ghost came from, was under the earth. Yep. And one of her most important roles, which so strangely, she often gets cut out of like the big book of myths that you often see. Like if you just go into the bookstore and you get a modern day, copy of Greek myths, you hear a lot about Demeter and Persephone, Demeter being the goddess of the earth and her daughter being who has to spend half her year with her mother and half her year with her husband in the underworld. And Hermes is often the one credited, saying that Hermes is the one that basically gives Persephone the ride from the underworld back to the earth, and he's the one who takes her back down. But in some of the ancient reliefs, like on pottery, we've seen from the ancient Greek era, that you will find that Hecate is standing there with her torches, basically delivering Persephone to Hermes, who brings her back to the earth. So it's thought that she had an important role in the myth of bringing Persephone back to her mother, but that also she may have been taking care of Persephone when she was underground and with her husband. So Joe brought up the Maiden Mother Crone myth, which is something that is loosely tied to Hecate's association with the harvested crops. So Persephone, especially Persephone, Demeter, and Hecate were thought to be tied to the corn crop in particular. And so that Persephone would be the young green ear of or she's also sometimes called the Cora. And then Demeter was the ripe corn ready for harvesting. And Hecate represented the harvested corn which is part of, in that she was part of the regeneration. The corn would basically go back into the ground and come back up the following year. So a lot of the Demeter, Persephone, and Hecate myth has to do with crop reproduction. And so it's thought that perhaps there was a belief that she's taking care of the crops when they're underground.
That's really cool. I remember reading a book by Dolores Ashcroft Nowicki, who's an elder now. She's 93, I think.
Got to be getting on there, bless her.
She wrote a book called The Shining Pathways, which are the pathways on the Tree of Life. And the pathway that has to do with the underworld, Malkuth, you meet Persephone in this cave, which is about what you were talking about with the snakes and the dwellers underground. And when you meet Hecate in the cave, and she gives you the lantern or the torch so that you can make your way down to the underworld to find Persephone and return her to the upper world.
How fascinating.
Yeah. So it's really a lot of these mythologies are tied to both agriculture and astronomy.
As above, so below, perhaps. Yeah. So, Joe, what for you was the biggest impact making this particular statue had on you personally, I guess?
Did you get visited?
I can't say I got visited by her, but she certainly sort of was on my mind for quite a bit. I think the face came out differently than anything I would have imagined. There's I think with all artists, there's a point where the art kind of takes over and you don't necessarily have control of it. And I think that was definitely the case with this. I think I had a different image in my head, but as I kept working on it, I mean, especially the creation of the headdress, I don't know where that came from. It just sort of like came together on its own. And the costume, I mean, I didn't even do a drawing of this. I literally just sculpted this, and all things came together, the pin and the positioning of the cloak and the body armor. It just sort of, it was almost like automatic writing. It just sort of came through my fingers as I worked.
Well, it's kind of like she told you what she wanted, right?
Yeah, exactly. And, and what she didn't want, which is why I probably had to start from scratch at one point.
And I see we have the hounds at the base.
Yeah.
She has these 3 black dogs, doesn't she?
I was trying to figure out how to incorporate 3 dogs, basically. And for one thing, again, because she is a popular character, there are a number of other statues out there. I wanted not to repeat what had been done before. And I've seen statues with, 2 hounds kind of curled at her feet. I didn't want to do that. I know there was some association with the 3-headed hound, Cerberus, from the underworld. But I was told that it shouldn't actually be a 3-headed dog. So I went with sort of a gargoyle effect, where I didn't have to.
Well, they're very cool.
Yeah, so I figured that sort of touches on the concept of the 3 hounds without actually having 3 dogs, perched at her feet. And that's how a lot of this came together. It was just sort of trying to take the basic core concepts and visualize it into some kind of a 3-dimensional form. And again, the concept of the maiden mother crone. There have been a number of statues literally showing 3 women kind of joined at the hip.
Right.
And I do that. So I created sort of the image on her crown represents the 3 different stages of womanhood. And so you kind of got the concept worked into the headdress.
Yeah, no, it's really beautiful. There are no accidents. I think she kind of came through and told you what she wanted.
Yeah.
The other thing I'm really curious about, I'm going to direct my question to Courtney, is this labyrinth or wheel. It's like
I'm going to pick it up and get a little closer to the camera so you can tell me if you can see this. How are we looking? Around just here?
you got to get even closer.
Yeah. Say when.
Nope, we can just see your finger. It's like a labyrinth-looking kind of wheel.
It's tricky, this.
It's lovely. Yeah.
Do you know much about that?
The maze, isn't it?
It's
well,
maze
I mean, I always put myself on a risk out there because I might have missed a myth that I don't. I mean, Hekate is very. There's a lot to her. I do not recall offhand any specific myths that tie her to maze or labyrinths.
Okay.
But it doesn't mean that there's not there's not something for a modern day practitioner to gain from a symbol like that. I think, one of the great things about her is that because she does have this role as a guide, when we think about how she led Persephone out to every year, let her back to the surface. Because I think there's a symbol there of helping, of navigating a dark place. Again, I'm not familiar with any myths in which she's specifically connected to the labyrinth. I think that was more of I think that was a Herculean myth and has to do with Tartarus, or not Tartarus, the Minotaur. But yeah, so I think so that's a different one, but I personally see that as a connection to her being the torchbearer, the guide, the guide.
The guide, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a guide of a place of being in darkness. And it's actually really interesting. I'm sure she's okay with me telling you the story. One of the priestesses that I initiated, when she was starting her journey, my priestesses and priests, I initiate people of all genders, but they're all closely aligned with one specific deity, and the deity that she chose was Hecate. And as part of her initiation, I basically sent her out with a flashlight into the woods and said, find your way back. Now, this was all on the same property, so there's no way for her to get really lost. But it was, and the trails were very clear, but it's kind of scary because it's dark and it's at night. Now, she knows she's safe, but it's psychologically, it's kind of a scary thing. And she found herself in a labyrinth that was on the property. And that Hecate led her to this labyrinth. And then part of her work is she ministers to pagans who are incarcerated. So she's found that actually the work that Hecate led her to do very much mirrored the things that she accidentally found herself doing at the night of her primary initiation. But I think historically, like I said, I'm not aware of any connection with the labyrinth, but it doesn't mean that there is not value in people that are finding that association from their own experiences and their own interpretations.
Yeah. I think that it was presented to me that it has to do with her being the goddess of the crossroads.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Someone had presented that to me.
Yes. I mean, I personally don't see a labyrinth and a crossroads as the same structure. Labyrinths were actually meant to be prisons, so to speak, and you're not supposed to be able to get out. And now we've now used them as meditations, and that you can find your way in and find your way out very easily, but it's all contained in one space. Whereas the crossroads for Hecate were literally where three roads met. So that was considered one of her sacred places. Crossroads were kind of considered to be dangerous places. There were places where people could easily get robbed. Again, we're talking about the ancient Greek and Roman times. So if you're a traveler, you had to be very careful at a crossroads because there could be somebody hiding around the bend that's going to attack you, take your wares, take your merchandise. If you're, perhaps even assault you in other ways. So that was a scary place to go. And so it was believed that Hecate could protect you, or she could punish you depending on her mood and if you were in her favor. Crossroads were also considered to be liminal places because they weren't right or left or up or down or here nor there. And so they were places between worlds. And because of that, a lot of times urban places would bury the bodies of murderers at crossroads as a way of purging, partly as a way of punishing the souls. Because it was, we really would not find rest if they were buried at crossroads, but also as a way of purifying the city, is to get this body, this soul, this person out of the city limits and bury them somewhere. But you don't want to bury them in the next city because that's going to piss those people off. So if you just, at the crossroads, you're kind of in neutral territory there.
No man's land.
No man's land, yeah. And so it's thought that she was the guardian of those souls, and she could, in some ways, you could go and employ those spirits to do wicked things for you. Or you could employ Hecate to keep those evil forces away from you. So it was also thought that if you wanted to know the mysteries of magic and become a powerful spellcaster yourself, you could go to the crossroads and make petition for Hecate in that place. So now we see a lot of crossroads as more of a symbolic thing, as that crossroads are, you're at a point in your life. Which path am I going to take? A lot of times as a tarot reader, when I see people at crossroads, very often the tarot says, listen, you feel like you're at this major crossroads and you're going to go this way, you're going to go that way, and you're going to end up in one of two different destinations. But most often the path just kind of looks like a crossroads. Really, it's just kind of maybe going around a big rock or a big tree, and you're going to end back up on the same path that you started. You just got to figure out which path is better for you right now. If one's muddier and you don't have boots on, maybe you should take the dry path. But the dry path might be kind of steep. If you're having some back issues, maybe the muddy path is going to be a little easier on that. So you got to ask yourself which path is better for you right now. You're still going to end up where you're supposed to be. So those are more symbolic things. And I still find that I get a lot of power from making offerings to Hecate at crossroads. There's a 3-way intersection near my house that I go and make offerings to her. And there's something about it that's a little scary. So I'm very careful when I go. I bring my dog or bring my husband or both, so I just because there's something about that that's very Hekate and like, this place is a little spooky.
So it's not a cross of 2 roads, it's a cross of 3.
It's a cross of 3 roads. Yes. So it's kind of almost more like it's the fork in the road, because that's how older there weren't as many roads back in the day. So you're not necessarily going to get like a 4-way crossroads. It's much more likely that you're going to get a path that just diverts into 2 different directions. Right. And that's one of the reasons why we see her with triple face so often in ancient statues, is because she's looking at each direction.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Thank you. The other thing I learned, I'm going to show my ignorance here, so please forgive me, but my understanding is Hecate, Hecate, I'm sorry, I'm from Birmingham, England. English is a second language for me, never mind Greek. Hecate, something like worker from afar, and isn't there some legend that if you clap eyes on her, that's not a good thing? You're supposed to let her work unobserved, so to speak. Is it?
Yeah. She was known as the worker from afar, and she was not believed to. I mean, I think that the Greeks recognized that she was older than the Olympians. She was a Titan. So she had been around before the Olympians came into power, and she actually helped her nephew overthrow her brother, because she's just kind of like, out with the old way, bring in the new. And so she's a revolutionary in her own way. She's not one that holds on to the outdated modes of being. So she was called the worker from afar. And she was believed to exist in a cave far away from Mount Olympus. And it was thought that she was supposed to do her work unobserved. Like, you were not supposed to look at her. In some cases, if you'd gone through these very extreme rites to enter one of her cults and be one of her priests or priestesses, or a eunuch priest, then you might be able to have some kind of, I don't know, face-to-face contact. I don't know what that would have been like. But if people did make offerings to her, like if they left offerings at crossroads, you're supposed to turn your back and you don't turn around. You keep going, because it was considered to be very, very bad luck to see her receiving your. I'm sorry, I've got a pest. Speaking of my dog is always he's up to no good right now, because he knows I'm otherwise occupied, and he has already stolen one of the cat's dinner dishes since we sat down. He was like sneaking by me within his mouth, like,
you can't do anything, haha.
Yeah.
That's it. Never work with children, animals, witches, musicians, sculptors, authors.
Well, it is the time of day when it started, because I'm on the West Coast, so it's like 4:30 here. The sun's starting to set, and I cannot say this word, but Daddy is not home yet. And he starts to get upset when it starts to get dark, and Daddy is not here, so he starts looking for him. So if you see a little floofy floof tail, that's what's going on.
Okay.
Later on this week, we find your dog has been entered in a spelling bee.
He's starting to know a few words like WALK. He doesn't know that one yet. He's starting to know it. HUNGRY is another one I can't say. So short list of words we don't use around here unless we're delivering.
The other thing that I really want to mention about the statue, Joe, is I'm so amazed at the amount of movement that you got with her hair and the way the cloak is moving, her dress. That snake seems almost real. Yeah. Like he's going to move as well.
Well, I always like to incorporate as much movement as possible, even in a static pose. So I had her hip to the side, and I always like to do something with the hair where there's wind flowing. So
yeah, it's really beautiful.
And so the wind is taking her hair to the side, and I had to make sure the torch has got the flame going in the same direction and
same way. Yep.
So basically, you got a basic standing pose, but it's got all this movement happening through it because of the unseen forces of nature affecting.
And the detail is incredible. Her sandals, her feet, the little Greek kind of mosaic around the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and the other thing, this dagger. What's with a dagger?
Well, A dagger is, and I'm sure Courtney can back me on this, a dagger is one of those elements that's often featured with Hecate, along with the torch and the snakes. And, well, actually, one of your employees, Jen, pointed out you should have a dagger. And it was a humorous story because, hi, Jen. She mentioned that she had a dream the night before of Hecate, where Hecate attacked her with a dagger and explained how the dagger is her way of bestowing a blessing. And I thought that was the most bizarre thing in the world. But I just,
That's wild, yeah.
well, we want to give her a way to bestow blessings, so she has to have a dagger. And
She has to have a dagger.
You're charged with occasioning actual bodily harm. No, Your Honor, I was merely bestowing a blessing. Yes. So, Courtney, why the dagger? I mean, is the dagger a blessing? I mean, obviously, you've got the phallic aspect of a dagger. I can see that being sort of fertile there. But,
Sorry.
maybe that was a bad word there. I said
No, it's because he's looking for DADDY is what it is.
Okay.
So, well, the dagger is an interesting symbol because it's like in life, it can mean a lot of different things. I mean, a knife can do a lot of good. It's going to chop up a bunch of broccoli and some tofu later for me to make dinner, right? But a knife can also cause a lot of harm. Same thing with a scalpel, right? In the right hands, a surgeon's scalpel is going to do miraculous things that, even just a couple hundred years ago, that people could not have imagined the kind of good that a scalpel can do. But a scalpel could also really hurt someone in either the unskilled hand or... Would you stop? Sorry. I've got a husky mix, so he's... No.
Oh, I love him.
He's a bit of a mess. Stop. But with her, it was a sign that it might have been like the culling of herbs as well, either poisonous or medicinal. So I'm going to send him outside with a Kong. Please give me 30 seconds. I apologize.
Okay, we'll join you in a second. Hold on.
That's funny.
So we could probably, there's lots of questions I see appearing. So maybe we could throw some questions. I don't know whose way. We'll have to see what it is. So I'm gonna have to scroll all the way back here. Gosh,
I didn't see any questions.
Well, there's.
I see hi from Mike DiPaolo.
Well, I get both. You
Chris
only
Lopez
see a few.
Brenda
So
and Kathleen.
I see. Yeah, these are people on. You're not seeing the ones on YouTube. You're only seeing the ones on the Book of
I'm
Face.
seeing the ones on the Book of Face.
I can see the ones on the
saying
Tube
things
of
like,
You.
Wow, the statue is amazing, beautiful. Hello, everybody.
So while we're waiting for Courtney to come back, having rescued her dog or brought her dog some comfort.
Could I just say, Bridget, if you want to see her up close,
that's what I was going to say.
Go to got-deity.com.
Oh, we can do faster than that. All right. Whichever way you choose to spell Hecate, you can go to hecate.awarenessshop.com. So that's Hekate or HECATE .awarenessshop, all 3 S's together.com. We'll take you straight to that page for.
Well, that wasn't confusing at all.
Well, no, I tried to do it. I will stick it up on a banner.
So there are some comments about the headdress. People are saying that to them it reminds them of Egyptian or Nike or Viking. But this headdress is what she gave to Joe. She's saying that Courtney had said there was a connection to Hermes, which is Mercury, right? With the winged headdress.
That's vicious.
So I'm just going to type the address to go see the statue down here.
How about it? And I can throw this up here as well. So let's see if we can do this. And I can put a banner on the screen as you do, perhaps. I'll give that a stab in a second while you guys are talking about it. So we have a couple of questions. Let me see if I can find the one. Probably we've already approached this one, Kenneth. So I do apologize if we're going over old ground here. But here's a question saying, isn't Hecate strongly associated with a black dog as a familiar? I can put the question on there. That's what he said. I.e. Ceridwen and the black hen, Arena and the owl, etc., etc. So what do you think? How are we going to answer Kenneth's question there?
Oh, look, you can put it up. she's strongly associated with a black dog as a familiar.
Mm.
Well, I have. I first want to finish what I was saying before I was interrupted by a blonde dog, which is, you know, that the dagger also was used for the culling of herbs, and those could be medicinal, but they could also be poisonous. So again, it really just depended on Hekate's mood, because she was considered to be someone who had the power to poison, but also the power to heal. Now, as for the dogs, she was considered to be associated with dogs. I wouldn't say necessarily as a familiar, if you mean like with a magical companion or someone who does her magical bidding. But it was said that she was accompanied on moonlit nights by hounds that would bray, or that if you could, you know, if her coming would be announced by the howling of dogs or hounds. Black dogs, basically black animals in particular, were associated with Hekate because of her underworld associations and being under the earth and the blackness of the dark of under the ground. But dogs were in particular were associated with death because dogs are actually natural scavengers. We don't see it a lot in Western society because we have a lot of programs in place so that we don't. Most times feral dogs or stray dogs get removed from the streets pretty quickly, but dogs will eat dead things and often do. And if you have a dog, you know, they roll in disgusting dead things all the time. That's something that they're into. And so being a goddess that was connected with things that were dead and dying and, you know, decomposing, I think it just kind of was a bit of a logical sense, like, well, yeah, but dogs do the same thing. They're associated with dead things and dying things, and they eat rotting, decomposing things. Dogs are gross. I mean, I love my dog, but he's disgusting. So he rolls in dead rat, and he's so proud of himself. Like, that's the grossest thing in the world. So
it's perfume. It's perfume.
Oh yeah. Especially if you give him a bath, and he's like, "I got to fix this." We're gonna go rolling poop and rat guts. I'm like, oh my god.
I love it. Have we got any more questions looking here? So we talked about the headdress.
Well, I love the triple moon on the headdress too. It's you know, the 3 phases with the pentacle in the center. That's gorgeous. And there's the triple goddess up there. It's just amazing. Everything is just so beautiful and so detailed. I'm really excited about it.
It's a masterpiece of work. So a couple of things for you. For those of you who don't know, the statues, every single one is hand cast, hand finished by this lovely fellow Joe Laudati himself, and they're all individually signed and numbered. So you're going to get a numbered statue. If you have a particular number you want, I will tell you now, some unfortunately are gone. But if you have a particular number you want, you can either PM us or just give the store a call, 845-255-5756, and we'll do what we can. She's going to be just $125, which is considerably worth it. I have to tell you, when you think about the hundreds of hours that have gone into making this, it's they're not knocked out in China. Let me just say that.
That's a phenomenal deal, honestly. Really, really is.
So yeah, they're all individually done. And I understand Courtney very kindly. Can you pass me Courtney's book again? I'm sorry, I can't quite reach that far. If you're joining us tonight and you don't have a copy of Courtney's book and you would like a copy of Courtney's book, it is a mere $16.95. We will probably get you a signed book plate to go in there as well. I believe Courtney's been very generous and said she would do that for us. If you're looking for a signed copy to go with your statue, or if you're looking for a statue to go with your signed copy, we can help you out with either. So there you go. That's.
Courtney also has some other really wonderful books too. I think you wrote a book on Breed.
I did. I wrote a book on Bridget. Sure did.
And Lynn just said, "I want the book."
Well,
please.
I can see. That's what Lynn says. Look at Lynn's nursing gnome. I think that's just.
I love it. Oh my God, Lynn! I love the nursing gnome.
She's into gnomes. She's a Taurus.
Oh my God. I have a thing with like an old joke with one of my oldest friends who is also a Taurus. So that's actually pretty great.
All right, I got a question.
Hold on a second.
Oh, sorry.
Kathleen, yes, you can get a book plate because I know you already bought the book. So you don't have to trade your book in. You can just get a plate to put in it.
We'll find you one,
She's not
Kathleen.
coming from Oregon. She's going to mail book plates in.
Yeah.
So yes, if you purchase the book, you'll get a book plate.
So I have a question, which is, I'm going to put Mike's question on the screen. And is it bad to replace an older statue with a new one? I have a mass-produced one I bought years ago. Well, we talk about this actually in our magical, tools class, don't we? So what would be your advice there?
Well, I certainly wouldn't destroy the old statue.
Correct.
But you could do a ritual if you wanted to consecrate the new statue and move energy that you had created or built in the old statue to the new statue. And you could keep the old statue in a different place if you didn't want to have it on your altar. If you have a garden outside, you could maybe put it outside if it's resin, or put it on your porch by your front door to guard you. Something that would relate to that goddess's energy.
That would be entirely my take on it, Mike, as well. You don't replace one child with another when you just have another kid, So you continue to honor and treasure the statue that has represented the focus of your spiritual practice for as long as you've been doing it. You're not going to discard that. You're not going to throw that aside and forget about it. You may find a slightly different place for it. So, you could certainly have more than one statue, believe me.
I just keep putting them on the altar. Just, the more the merrier. She doesn't mind. She thinks it's pretty great.
It's interesting because when I first started attending Circle at the awareness shop, obviously you had all your various statues from different sources. And then you started hiring me, and slowly but surely my work replaced all the other statuary in the Circle ceremony, and I've kind of taken over there. So
well, we definitely kept our original Caradwyn and Cernunnos Gwynepneith, and we brought them home. And they actually sit on the edge of our whirlpool tub.
Yep.
So they have place in the bathroom, believe it or not, because we had used them for over 20 years. So we couldn't just discard them. Right. And I didn't really feel like I wanted to bury them or destroy them.
Only if something is broken completely beyond repair would you contemplate returning it back to the elements with due reverence. But if it's something that you treasure, you love, and have loved, and was the focus of your spirituality for some appreciable time, then no, don't discard it. Don't. But how many guitars is too many? It's just...
I see nothing. I mean, what is a very, very good friend of mine who's a witch, where she said, and please nobody take offense to this if this is your aesthetic, but I just love what she said. She goes, minimalism is fascist. And so when she puts an altar together, there is just all the stuff on it, and it's always gorgeous. But when she said minimalist is fascist, I don't mean to criticize those of you that have minimalist altars. Those are really beautiful too. It's just to give those of you permission who feel called to just pack your altars with all the pretty things. Just know that is totally fine.
Totally fine.
Bridget's cat. Did that just happen? Because we didn't pay your cat. Honestly, we didn't talk your cat into doing that. I promise you.
But no, I'm sure that you have more than one place that you could put.
Did we lose our hosts?
I think we might have lost.
We might have lost our host. So Joe, our master plan has come to fruition. We have taken over the airwaves. Oh no, they're back.
So it is probably one of our cats.
To start having our own show.
Yeah.
Ideal, I love it. Throw us out. It's probably best. It's safest.
We're like,
So what I was gonna say is take the old statue and put it by your hearth or by your stove, because that's another good place to have blessings and abundance and that kind of thing, especially with Hecate or Hecate because she has that abundance and fertility.
Or here's a thought: get a third statue, and then you can have them facing in 3 different directions, like at a crossroads on your altar. Hey, there you go.
See, that's why they pay you the big bucks.
That's right.
Superb problem solving there. So
I would not say that pagan books did not buy me a summer home. They did buy me a new computer, though. Because my 2 books put my old computer in the ground. It said no more. So
the ability to write more books, then.
It did buy me a new computer. Like, yay, got a royalties check. My husband's like, you desperately need a new computer, and I'm like, but that means this whole thing is going to go out the window. I have to send it all to Apple. He's like, there you go.
There you go. So there's something else in the works, and I was starting to talk about the books that you've written. And I think you've written a book on the Morrigan as well, haven't you?
I did. I wrote a book. It's called "The Morrigan, Celtic Goddess of Magic and Might." And so I've gotten the big 3 taken care of: Bridget, the Morrigan, and Hecate. Please don't ask me to write any more goddess books. Everyone's like, write this one. And I'm like, they're really hard. And the gods they are a lot of work. And also the gods, I mean, I live with these goddesses when they come through. It's not just, it is a lot of research, and you have to figure out which translations are the ones that most adequately reflect them. You want to make sure that you're is in touch with the native sources as much as possible if you're not from that culture, so you're getting an accurate representation to the best of your abilities. But it's also just the spiritual journey that these goddesses will put you on. And so like with Bridget, she'd already come in and moved my whole life around. So I was able to write a lot in retrospect. With the Morrigan, she basically moved in and had her presence in there while I was writing her book. And with Hakate, it's she moved in and then just has not moved out. So she's I wasn't surprised when Lisa, you reached out and said, well, I'll send you a statue. And I was like, yes, because I know Hekate is not happy with what one I have for her right now, because it's more of a plaque and it keeps falling over. And then there's a sense it's like, I really need another one. And then I'm sitting going, I really should do something about this. And then you reached out. She's like, yeah, I got one. So
there you go.
Yeah.
Well, the statue that Joe is going to do next is the Morrigan.
Yep.
Yay! Can we do another talk? And Joe, can we take over the show again?
Yeah.
We'll try harder next time to usurp.
Well, look, we should collaborate doing the statue so you can make sure to incorporate those elements that you think are important.
Well, yeah, I would love to speak with you about that. That'd be great.
We need each of these deities, someone who is very particularly knowledgeable of that particular.
Yeah, and there's also a lot of Irish scholars that would be, more than happy to contribute information on that as well. As the Morrigan is of a living tradition, and so it'd be, I'm happy to help make some of those connections for you. So I think that, and I think that's a really good place to start from.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, thank you.
I should acknowledge Lynn, who was just on here as well with the question, I presume. She helped as well. Lisa got me in touch with her, and we collaborated on a number of the elements in creation of the statue. So that's an example where it kind of helps to have somebody who's in touch with the particular deity.
Right. Because I did not have a relationship with Hecate or Hecate, so I didn't feel comfortable. But Lynn, the nursing gnome.
Lynn, the nursing gnome?
The very one.
She worked with Joe. To talk about different elements. So we want to do everything that we can, not to just have something stamped out. We want something that really is a representation of that goddess or god or story, mythology. And Joe has been ever so careful, not to ruffle any feathers.
Oh.
No, we got Lisa's right. Our area of expertise really doesn't cut it on the Greek and Egyptian pantheons. We know enough to be positively dangerous, and that's it. But we have quite the pantheon of the Welsh deities, certainly. Ceridwen was the very first one that Joe ever did, followed quickly
Skittle.
by that was so exciting, apparently. Yes, yes, she's now got a job as some kind of production assistant, I believe. This is our Skittle. She's insane completely.
Anyway,
Skittles for brains, but yeah.
But no, we're in service to the old gods, so we had to finish our own pantheon first. But now we're going to do
Okay.
ours.
And Ash is saying, no way, that's so exciting. Well, I know you said that because
No, not Skittle. Morrigan is what's exciting to her.
Oh, right. Okay, then. Beautiful. You guys are so awesome. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Honestly, it's we're humbled. We're humbled to know you both, and it's wonderful to be able to hook people up and do this fun thing. So, you guys, if you're watching and you want a signed copy of
Just
Hecate,
give us a call.
Goddess of the
PM
Witches,
us.
give us a call, PM us, whatever it is. We can get you hooked up with that. And yeah, Joe's got his work cut out making statues for a little while. So if you're looking for this shoddy piece of workmanship, no, it's ridiculously beautiful.
It's just stunning, Joe. I'm so excited to get my greedy little hands on one.
Thank you so much.
Well, your greedy hands will be on one soon enough, I promise you, Courtney.
Oh, and it'll be all over the Instagram.
Oh, well, see, that's going to help too. That's why I say we can help each other. We'll sell your book, you sell the statue.
Yeah.
Well, thank you all who have been watching us on the Book of Face and the Tube of You.
Yes, indeed.
Let us know if you want a statue. Let us know if you want a book. We've got a whole big shelf full of these.
Yep.
And the potter even made us a few pieces of key pottery.
So
well, she
that's
made
key,
a couple
isn't
of little vases for your altar with keys on them, and a little candle snuffer witch hat with a key on it. So she tried to make some.
I'm just going to put this up
Hecate.
again. So yeah, Hekate.awarenessshop.com will get you there. I mean, obviously you can go to gotdeity.com, got-deity.com, which is where all of our statues reside. We have a dedicated website just for our statuary. But we set up a little landing page. You can also spell it the other way around with a C if you want to. But I believe there's no such thing as a soft C. Is it like there's no soft C in Welsh? It's a hard C. It's like a K, but again, it's all Greek to me, and I don't do Greek. so
we have
hence
enough trouble with Welsh.
It's Hecate, even if it's spelt with a C. I think, and isn't it? Somebody's going to kick me to death here, but it's Kerberos, isn't it? Not Cerberus, I believe. Kerberos, the triple-headed god. So yeah.
No, I just remind people, listen, if somebody mispronounces a word, it's because they learned it by reading, and so leave them alone.
I think that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
Well, my excuse is I'm from Birmingham, so
I use that one too all the time. I say I'm from Birmingham, and they go, "No, you're not." And I'm like, "Well, how would you know?" And they're like, "I don't know."
Yeah. Well, you have to say sorry a lot, and all right, Birmingham, great. Anyway,
I say I'm from Birmingham. What do you want?
We don't know what we want.
Alabama.
Sadly, no.
Well, that's Birmingham. That's different.
Yeah.
And also, no, my people come from the Carolinas, so the accent is quite different than in Birmingham. Yeah.
Birmingham. Yeah, Brummie. Did you know, interesting thing about Birmingham, we actually have more canals than Venice.
Wow.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah, they're pretty awful though.
Oh, God.
You wouldn't see anybody on a gondolier going down there. No.
You're like, nope.
No.
Anyway,
moving on.
Again, I just want to say a very special thank you to Courtney. We really appreciate your time, and we really appreciate your books. They've been wonderful to have to sell and to read and to enjoy. And thank you to Joe for putting up with this computer stuff and being live with us. And it's just a wonderful journey. And thank you to everybody who's been watching.
Yes, indeed. And I'm so sorry your evil scheme, haha, to take over only
I
lasted for a second.
know. I have to work harder next time.
I love it.
Joe
I
will-
love it.
But no, thank you so much for having me and for all the work that you're doing and doing shows like this. This is a really wonderful way for people to have community. Oh, Bridget, thank you so much. I did, Hecate did get a Witchy Award through the Mystic Dreamer, which is, yeah. So I really appreciate everybody that voted for Hecate as outstanding devotional book of 2021.
Nice. Congratulations.
Thank
Well
you.
done, you.
Thank
Well
you.
done. It's nice when somebody goes, hey, you did good.
Oh, I know. It's pretty funny because then it's like, it's speaking of grudges, I had people from my far, far past like, that's awesome. Like, I hadn't heard from you in a while. But yeah, no, it was great.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Thank you again. Thank you so, so much. Honestly, we are beyond privileged to know you and to have you guys here. And thank you. That's about all I can really say. Thank you. Thrice thank you, because 3's a good number, right?
Yes,
Three's a good number.
absolutely.
Right.
All right.
Thank you so
We're going to
much.
bid you all a good night.
That's
Thank you
wonderful.
so much, everybody, for joining us.
We'll see you again
We'll
soon.
see you again soon. We're just going to say good night and finish up and say goodbye to everybody. So thank you so much, Courtney. And thank you so much, Joe. And we'll touch base with you both really, really soon, no doubt.
Bye-bye.
Okay, so
Bye,
thank you all for taking the time to watch us. This is obviously going to be up on the Tube Review and the Book of Face. Likewise, if you want, if you're looking for the statue, we do have limited quantities for immediate delivery. And they may well have gone by now because I've absolutely no idea what orders have come through while we've been doing that. But Joe is making them. So please go ahead and place your order and we'll get one to you as quickly as we possibly can. But and also, if you're looking for Courtney's book, please do let us know, and she's going to be sending us a bunch of signed plates for the book, so we can hook you up with that also. So thank you so much for joining us. It's been a joy and a pleasure to have Courtney and to have Joe with us this evening.
And Skittle.
And Skittle, of course, who tried to take us off air at one point and put up whatever messages she feels like. Perhaps it could be feed me or something.
All right. Anyway, good night and blessed be, and we'll see you tomorrow morning on 11 Z's.
Yes, indeed. Be safe, be well, blessed be, and have a great evening.